So I'm Samhar Johannes, and I am a STEM reference and instruction librarian. My contact information is on the slide, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm here with my colleague Jasmine, and I'm going to let Jasmine introduce herself.
Thanks, Samhar. I'm Jasmine Shoemaker. I'm a reference and instruction librarian here in the library. You can find me here. My contact info on the screen. We'll also share it in the chat for you at the end.
So the agenda for today is that we're going to go over what is an academic research poster. So the definition, the content, the layout, the color, and the font. Then we're going to transition to implementing that information into a Canva poster. So we're going to talk about how to create a Canva poster using a template or from scratch, which is referred to as create a new design. But the goal is that we hope to spend the majority of this session actually doing a demo. And so that's our goal. Hold on one second. Ah, why is this frozen? I'm trying to move this. I don't know if you guys can see it. There. Okay, great. So an academic research poster is a visual communication tool that allows you to present your research in a clear, concise, and graphic format. It attracts attention, it conveys information clearly, and should initiate conversations that can represent any stage of the research process. Researchers often create a poster before the completion of the research project in order to invite feedback or collaboration. Sort of the key statement of this particular slide is that at any stage of the research process, the beginning, the middle, at the end, 2 years afterwards, you can create an academic research poster. So before you open up Canva or another app, it is important that you complete step 1, 2, or 3. So that means create the content that goes on the poster. So that means write the script, write the draft, create the drawings, create the graphs, determine the layout, and then also determine the color and the font. And so once you have step 1, 2, and 3 completed, then you can open up Canva. So let's talk about best practices when it comes to the poster content. So what goes on the poster. The most important thing when it comes to content is to have it completed beforehand, before you open up Canva. So that means write the text, gather the images, gather the drawings, make the charts, etc. So the only thing that you're doing is copying and pasting or uploading. This will save you considerable amount of time because you don't want to be writing original text directly on the poster your first time. You want to have it created somewhere else and then copy and paste it or upload it. So every conference, every, what is it called, discipline has its own requirements when it comes to poster. But most posters, most conferences have the following or require the following. So a title should be professional but catchy, usually 1 to 2 lines. Then right underneath is the author information. This is where you put your information. So your name, your faculty advisor's name, the name of your collaborators, your department and institution. And for institution, you need to write out University of Maryland, Baltimore County. We all know what UMBC stands for, but when you're presenting California or some other location, they may not know what UMBC stands for, so write it out. Then the next section is the introduction, or sometimes referred to as the abstract or the summary, where you write a short synopsis of your research, the objectives, state the goals of this research. One thing that I'm going to mention a lot, and Jasmine is going to mention a lot and show in the actual demo, is that real estate space is a big issue when it comes to making a poster. So if you have any opportunity to reduce the text of your poster and have it instead maybe formatted in bullets or maybe as an image, you should do that. So for the objectives, put it in bullet format. Then the materials or methods section. So this is where you describe the procedure or the equipment, do a flow chart. Again, if you have any opportunity to substitute text for an image, do that. The results. Did your experiment actually work? And again, use a mixture of text and images. Conclusion. What were the major results? Was your hypothesis true? Why is your research important within the industry or academia itself? And then what's next for this research? A reference section. And as you can see here on the slide, it is not uncommon. For instance, if you have a large amount of references, to only put the most important references on your poster. And when the people come and visit your poster, you can have a handout with the full list of references. So this way you can save yourself a little space. And then last, acknowledgement. This is also a mandatory section. Some people assume that, that just because they're thanking people here, they don't have, like, they can maybe like avoid this or, but you can't, because not only are you thanking people, but you're also disclosing if there's any conflict. So did you take money from somewhere? Is there any conflict of commitment, conflict of interest? Okay, so that's the text, but a text-heavy poster is unattractive. So you need to have images. And so some of the images that you can have on your poster are the following. And so whether it's photographs or diagrams or charts, etc. And with Canva, depending upon what type of image you have, it's recommended that the file be something a little bit different. So whether you have a PDF or whether you have a GIF, how to create that particular, how to save it and then how to upload it, as discussed here. The minimum DPI for your image is 150, because anything lower than that, the image resolution, the quality of your image will be poor. Okay, so that was the content. Let's transition and talk about the layout. And so when it comes to best practices for the layout, the key thing is to keep it simple. You're not here to reinvent the way a poster is assembled. You're here to keep it straightforward, make it as plain and simple for your viewers. So with that in mind, you want to group related content together. And so when people read your poster, they read it from the top left to the bottom right. And so top left makes sense that it's the introduction, because that's where they're going to start from. Then the bottom right is where they're going to end. So that makes sense that it's, for instance, the references or the acknowledgement, something along those lines. You want to have enough white space, so that means enough negative space. You don't want to crowd your poster with so much text, so much images. You want to leave enough blank space that your poster breathes. And you want to have a good combination of images and text. And so, for instance, a heavy text poster, as I said before, is unattractive, but a heavy image poster looks light on substance. So you want to find the right combination of images and text. Here's an example, but I want you guys to pay attention to the layout, because the layout, as I said, is consistent from poster to poster. The very top is the title, nice and prominent. Right underneath is the author information. Top left is where we start. So here it's referred to as abstract, but this could easily be referred to as the introduction or the summary. And then bottom right is where you end, and that's the references. And so when people read your poster, they read it from the top here, top left, and they go down the column. Then they start up again from here, then go down the column, down the column, down the column, and they end at the bottom right. Pay attention to the fact that it has headers. Pay attention to the fact that you'll see empty space. Here's another example, but again, the layout is consistent. The title information, nice and prominent, author information right underneath. Abstract, top left, and then you end with references. But again, empty space, empty space. You see columns, empty space. So let's go from the layout to the color and the font, best practices. So when it comes to color and the font, you want to keep it simple. So no more than 2 to 3 colors. And I know at first you think, really? Only that many? But you're going to see why when you have more than 2 to 3, it looks really, really chaotic. It looks overwhelming on the eyes. You want to keep the text dark, so preferably black. You want to keep the background colors fairly light because think about it. A dark text with a dark background becomes really heavy to read. And then something to keep in mind is that the colors that you see on your monitors aren't necessarily the colors that will show up on your poster if you have it printed. So I don't know, for instance, if some of you all are making posters for for online conferences, so it's like a virtual conference. So, or if some of y'all are actually printing your posters. For those that are printing your posters, note the fact that the colors that you see here on your monitors are usually 2 to 3 shades darker or lighter. So if you know your printer, you know who's going to be printing your poster, you can ask them, like, what shade of, for instance, orange will this actually be? Will this be a little bit darker or a little bit lighter than what I see? I have, like I've said many times before, been burned by this. Okay. The recommended font sizes for each section. Title is the most prominent. You should be able to see it 20 feet away. The author information right underneath. The header, so when you write introduction, methods, abstract, etc. And then last, the body. So you may start off, for instance, the title with 80, but you may end up having to push it up to maybe 100. So just stay within the range that we have recommended. Here is the recommended font styles. This is not an exhaustive list, but the common theme here is that they are conservative. Because again, we're not trying to be innovative or, over the top. We're trying to keep it simple, clean, because when you have a really busy, and for instance, if you have something that's like a cursive, it becomes too distracting, and you're going to see with some of the examples. Okay, so now that we talked about what goes on a poster in terms of the content, we talked about the layout, and we've talked about the color and the font. We're going to take that information and implement it in Canva. Canva is one of the tools that you can use to create a poster. And so what you see here right now is the dashboard of a Canva account. So this is my account, and you know that because you can see the letter S, the top right-hand corner. And once you have created an account, this is what your dashboard will look like. You'll see a big search box right at the center. So what is Canva? Canva is a free-ish graphic design tool, a web-based content management and publishing resource that allows you to create the following: so presentations, social media posts, etc. But for us, we're going to focus on using Canva to create a poster. So as I mentioned before, Canva is free-ish. And the reason why I say free-ish is that there is a subscription version, but we're going to be talking about the free version. And so what you can do with the free version, which is create an academic research poster. And so, as I said before, once you have created an account and you create an account with your UMBC email address, this is what the front page dashboard looks like. And from the front page dashboard, you can create 2 types of posters. You can create a template, and you can create a poster from scratch. And so poster from scratch is called a new design, and a poster from a template obviously is called template. And so from the front dashboard, you can make edits, you can upload, you can search. There's a lot that you can do from the dashboard. Okay, so let's talk about creating a poster using the template. So it goes without saying that creating a poster using a template is the easiest, most straightforward way. Um, it's a way that I have utilized, Jasmine has utilized, we've utilized both, but this is, like I said, the easiest, most straightforward way. But there are two things that you need to know when you are using this particular method. First, there are over, as you can see, Canva currently has 50,000 templates. However, there are 8,000 free templates only. So that's still a lot for us to like play with. But second, the most important thing is that when you are using a template, you cannot edit the dimensions. So if you are creating a poster for ERCAT or for SURF or some other conference and the dimensions are 46 by 46, that's what they want for your posters. And the free template that you like is, for instance, 36 by 46, you can't use it because you can't alter the dimensions. So pay attention to what the dimensions are, because if they don't fit what your conference wants, you obviously can't use it because you can't make the changes. Okay, so that's a template. And again, Jasmine's going to show you how to create and show you like how to, like I said, create a template. Then next thing I want to show you is or talk to you about is creating a new design poster, and that is from scratch. And so you go to the front page dashboard, and then on the right hand corner, you click on create a design. So this is how you create one from scratch. And as you can see, you are immediately asked, what are the dimensions? Which is kind of nice. The thing you need to remember though is that once you put in the dimensions, you cannot go back and alter them. So make sure that you have the dimensions right from the beginning. Whether it's creating a poster using the template or creating a poster from scratch, you can share your posters with other people within Canva. And so you can do group Canva poster, which Jasmine and I have done. You can share links, you can embed social media. There's a lot that you can do with a Canva poster. And I think it's just, it's a great tool. It's between this and PowerPoint, they're great resources to create an academic research poster. Okay, in terms of printing, so whether if you're printing an actual poster, you can print on campus, and there's a lot of printing services on campus. So whether it's Common Vision, whether it's the what is it called, faculty publishing, I forgot the name, but it's within the bio department on the first floor, there's a printing service. But so there's at least two minimum printing services on campus, but there's also printing services nearby. So whether it's Target, Staples, etc., just be aware of the fact that the more time you give them, the cheaper it is, the less time. So if you are having this be turn around and have it printed the following day, they're going to charge you a lot. Okay, so I don't know about you, but it always helps me to see examples, because you can hear somebody say 2 to 3 colors, choose this font, choose this, but in my head, I'm probably thinking it won't hurt to modify it a little bit. So let's look at actual examples of people who have created a Canva poster. So here's an example. Title nice and prominent. Author information right underneath. You see that it begins with building a community, top left, bottom right, future and sustainability. Okay, that ending makes sense. You'll see headers for each section. You see empty space. And so in terms of colors on this poster, you have the background tan, and then you have this dark brown, light brown. So that's 2 colors. People always ask, what about the colors of the images? And my response is always that if it takes up a lot of room, for instance, you count it within the 2 to 3 slot that you have. If it doesn't take a lot of room, if it's only like a small image, then it doesn't count. So here's another example, but this is more about the layout, the title, nice and prominent, top left, bottom right. Same thing. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague.
Thanks, Simhar.
No problem.
Okay, so Simar did a great job of giving everybody an overview of what an academic research poster should look like, what should it entail, etc. So if you're following along with me and you'd like to create a poster with content that we'll provide, feel free to head on over to canva.com. If you already have a login, great, go ahead and head over there and get logged in. As Semhar mentioned, we are going to be going over the 3 steps to creating a kind of test poster for today's workshop, including the content, which I'll provide, the layout, we'll talk about why we're structuring things specific ways, and then we'll talk a little bit about color and font and why I'm being more conservative for specific decisions there. So I have a link here in the slide. It's tinyurl.com/Canva Drive. I'm also going to place it in chat there for you all as well. Once you're there on that screen, you should see 2 different folders, one being for Google Doc and one being for Microsoft Word. Now I'm going to be using the Google Doc version just because I'm in Google Drive. And you'll see 2 kind of files here. One is the best practices that Semhar and I have created that kind of walks you through step by step of how to actually put a poster together, things to consider, and what you'll need to do beforehand, during, and after. So this is free to you to save, bookmark, however you see fit. Next, if you're following along with me, I'm going to be pulling directly from this creating an academic research poster using Canva content document. So this, as Semhar was grateful to mention earlier about the recommended font sizes, you'll see what we're going to be using today. With that range in mind, we've put what we're going to be starting at. Now, Semhar mentioned earlier, this is meant for you to have a place to start. You can always kind of go up in these different font sizes depending on how much room you have available on your poster. We also have the font style. Semhar recommended keeping it very conservative. We're sticking with Arial today. And then if you scroll further down, we have our actual text that we have created beforehand to be able to just copy and paste right into the poster. Now, if you've used Canva before, you'll know that you can directly type into a text box in Canva. However, we've noticed that it is way easier to be able to pick up on maybe grammatical errors or spelling errors while you're in a separate document versus doing it directly in the online platform. So I'm going to be pulling directly from this doc, and now I'm going to head over to canva.com. So I'm going to, before I get started, go to the bottom left, and I'm going to change this theme to light. I think it's easier for you all to see it, the light version. Semhar mentioned that there are 2 ways to create a poster, one being a template and the second being creating your poster from scratch. So if I wanted to create or at least see what templates were available, I'm going to make sure templates is chosen here. And I'm going to search maybe for academic research poster. So from there, you should see plenty of different options. Some are landscape, some are portrait. If you see this crown in the corner, that means you will need to have a pro account to be able to do that. If we wanted to select one, let's just say one down here. You can ignore these kind of costs here. This is if you are choosing to print with Canva, and you can just click customize this template. Now, before you do, you'll want to ensure that it is the correct dimensions that you would like to create a poster with. So once you've done so, you can click customize this template, and it will create a template for you. Now, you'll see two different pages here and here. You can use the second page to create different graphs, maybe of research that you've conducted or some data points, etc. Here's where the meat of your poster is at the very top. You've got your title and then your conclusion here at the bottom right. You can clearly see that you can move things around, including text boxes, and you can also double click and type. Now, if you're thinking, Jasmine, that is way too small, no worries. You can also use this slider down here to zoom in and out of your poster. At the top in this blue bar is where you can choose the name of your poster. You can also add collaborators or viewers to the poster. So if I were working with a classmate or a colleague like Semhar, I can click this plus button and add her to my poster. More than one person can be working in a poster at the same time. This is a great tool to use if you are working with someone especially far away. Once you're done with your poster, it's helpful to lock your poster so no other changes can be kind of made accidentally. And you can share your poster up here in the top right and print it by downloading it first. Always check with your printer like Common Vision, etc., depending on what type of file they like the poster to be saved as. And then you can download it there. Are there questions about how to find templates, how to change different things once you're in the template? Okay, let's go ahead and head back home. And now we're going to create one from scratch. So a few different ways to do this. You can either click here where it says custom size, create new, or you can click the plus button here in the top left, create. I'm going to choose custom size. And as Semhar mentioned, we now have to put in what we want our poster to be. So I'm going to choose this drop down kind of arrow under units. I'm operating under inches, so we need to change it to inches. And I'm choosing to create a poster that is 48 inches width by 36 inches height. Once I'm okay with this, I'm going to lock this in. Once I chose that I wanted 48 width, you'll notice that Canva tried to suggest a poster dimension for me. That's totally fine. It's because it's kind of learning different habits. I'm now ready to create my new design. So right away, we are working with 48 inches here and 36 inches here. Before you do anything related to adding things on this, it's important to name your poster. So we're just going to say workshop test poster. Next, we'll need to upload those images. You can't just simply copy and paste images from a Word document or Google Doc. You'll need to upload them first. So to do that, we're going to find the upload button on the left side of the screen. and you'll choose Upload Files, and then you'll need to determine and select the appropriate file there. So if you're following along with me, there are 2 images on page 3 that you can actually save to your computer and then upload to Canva. No worries if not. We'll show you the finished product as well. So once you have those files uploaded to your upload section, you're ready to actually start adding things to your poster. So now I think it's really helpful if you've created a poster maybe in PowerPoint or another platform, you might have noticed the benefits of having grid lines on a poster. This helps you align things and keep kind of what Semhar mentioned, things in kind of lines and be mindful of negative space between content. So to add grid lines, it's kind of hidden in Canva. We're going to go to File, Settings, and Add Guides. Grid lines are called guides in Canva. Next, if we're thinking we want maybe one kind of line per inch going vertical and then another line per inch going horizontal, so you have 1 square inch, we'll need to do that manually by going to Custom. And because we have, again, 48 inches here at the top, we want 48 different lines, right? For every inch, we want a line. So we're going to choose 48 with a 0-inch margin and gap. Same thing for the rows here. 36, because we have 36 inches this way, with a 0-inch gap and 0-inch margin. Now that we're done with that, we're going to click Add Guides. So if you can zoom in, zoom out, you'll see that each box is 1 inch all around. This kind of helps put things into perspective also when you're adding things and content to your poster. So now we're actually ready to add our shapes, boxes, what have you. So I'm interested in kind of jazzing it up. Maybe I don't want a traditional box that houses my title or houses my fields. I'm kind of wanting maybe a curved box. So maybe I want to select under Elements. I'm going to choose rectangle. I know I want a rectangle of some kind. Could choose this shape. If you had one that you'd recently liked that you used maybe for a different project, you can use that as well. I'd like to use this curved box here. So I'm going to just plop that right in the center. Now you might notice this color might not be it for you. That's okay. You can totally change it. All you need to do is make sure it is selected and click this gray circle here that corresponds with the color of the shape and change it to a more appropriate color that you'd like. I really dig this peach color. I think it's kind of UMBC-like. So I'm going to change it to that. You can use these arrows down here to resize your shape. And you can select your shape by holding it down and dragging it to where you'd like it to go. Now for folks who have made a poster before, you'll know that your ruler's at the top and on the sides are your friend. They really help align things, center things as you move about your poster. So I know that I'd like my poster to be in the center of the screen, the title. And most people don't know that you can actually double click in these kind of elements or shapes to create a text box. So I'm ready to actually add text to this shape. Now, Semhar mentioned, we talked about ranges earlier for font size, style, keeping it conservative. Once you've selected or double clicked in this text box or shape, you are now ready to add text. So I'm going to select that I would like this font to be Arial. If you don't see Arial here, you can search for it here. Arial. And next, I want the size. Let's start off at 80. Let's keep it small. We can always change it later. And click Enter. Now I'm ready to head back to my document here and add the title. All we're going to be doing is copying and pasting. That is the goal because we've prepped. Here's the title from the document. Now it's up to us to resize it just a smidge. So this is where you can also copy your text and choose the alignment here at the top with the lines. You can also bold your text. So if I wanted a more kind of view of it to see where things are, I can always zoom out. Here my title is in the center of the screen. I'm going to scooch it up just a smidge so it's maybe about an inch from the top. And we know it's an inch because of our grid lines or our guides are in place. Let's practice again by adding another shape for our author. We're going to click under Elements and select the same shape that we used. Canva does a great job of remembering your colors and different fonts. So we're going to resize this just a smidge. We know that our author box will be a smidge smaller. Let's start by making it, let's say 48. And we're going to click Enter. Next, we're going to grab the author information. As Simar mentioned, please spell out UMBC if you are presenting regardless anywhere. And then we're going to go back and paste it here. Now you might be thinking, wow, it remembered that it was bold too? Yes, it did. Canva does a great job of doing that. And we're going to center this right underneath the title. If you found that you're like, hey, I want this to be a little bit more narrow, you can always click and make it more narrow. You can also select your font if you'd like it a little bit bigger, and you can always increase your font there. Are there questions about how we've added elements or text so far? Okay, let's try one more shape. We're just going to head back over to Elements and then add one box. Now we're ready to add the content. What about our research, right? Let's start by adding an abstract shape. So our box here is ready. As Semhar mentioned, posters are read from the top left to the bottom right. So we know we need to start here. 80 is pretty big, so we know we need to kind of bring that down some. We can start at 48. We can even go to 50 depending on the kind of available space we have on our poster. And we're going to click Enter. Now, it may seem silly to copy and paste a word abstract, right? It's such a short word, you probably won't misspell it. I like to err on the side of caution and simply copy and paste everything. So I'm now going to paste the word abstract. Now we're ready to add text. This is something that you can put in a shape, or you can leave it in just a regular kind of text box on the back of the white background. Now for this, I'm just going to keep it pretty conservative, black on a white background. I'm going to go to text here, and I'm going to click add a text box. You'll see a very small text box here in the center. This is what we want. You're going to click this little kind of tree arrow thing, and you're going to move the text box over to where you'd like it to be. Next, we're going to grab the text for the abstract, copy it, and we know that we want the text to be a lot bigger, right? No one wants to read 12-point Arial font on a poster. Let's start by making it around 40. So I'm going to choose 40 and click enter. And I'm going to uncheck the bold. Now I'm going to select that text box and Control V to just paste it in. Let's zoom out so we get a bigger picture of the text. Now, this is what you do not want. You do not want your text to be right at the edge of your poster. There's something called a print bleed, where things right there on the edge of your poster will get cut off. So that being said, we know that we need to err on the side of caution and move this kind of text more to the right. So I'm going to clean this up a bit by selecting the text here. I'm going to choose my alignment to the left here. And now I'm going to use my arrows here to make this much more narrow. Once you have that, click off of the box and click and drag your box where you want it to be under your abstract. Now you may be thinking that's really hard to see with these grid lines. How am I supposed to read that? No worries. You can temporarily turn them off by going to File, Settings, and Show Rulers and Guides. So again, pretty bare. All we've done is just add one section and the text. Let's keep going. We're going to turn those grid lines back on to keep things more aligned by going to File, Settings, and Show Rulers and Guides. I want to show you all a feature. Once you get the hang of adding the shapes for your section headings, you can easily duplicate these shapes. So you can click on a shape that you'd want to duplicate and click the duplicate the little plus with the box, and it has now duplicated a shape. So the shape is chosen. Anything that is chosen or selected is going to be outlined in purple. You can now click it and drag it down. So now we're ready for the next section of our poster, which would be the methods, right? What did the research entail? What did we do? I'm going to go back to my content doc and select the word methods. Some posters may call it a methodology, but I'm going to select this second abstract and copy in the word methods. Next, we need to add the text associated with the methods section. I'm going to go back and grab my text. And add a text box under the T. Here's our text. I'm going to click and drag the text under the corresponding section heading. I'm going to select that I want my text to be, let's say 40. Enter, and we're going to check that we do not want it bolded. Now I'm going to paste in my methods section. Now you might notice we're kind of hanging off the poster at this point. That's okay. All we need to do is figure out how we're going to get this on the poster. It is perfectly fine to shift things up as you see fit and play around with your font size. A poster, as Semhar mentioned, is not supposed to be so exhaustive of your research. It's not supposed to be everything, just the highlights, just the really important highlights. So with that in mind, we know that we can select the text under our methods section, align your text to the left, and resize your text. Now you'll notice my text is on a little bit too far to the left for me. I'm going to now try to position this a little bit further. I might also do the same for my section headings. You can also move these section headings up a smidge. So again, you're reading this one column, one column, one column. I know we have about 8 minutes left. I do want to show you all just one final feature of adding things to the poster before I show you the finished product of what this poster will look like. So now that we're ready kind of for our images, we don't want a text-heavy poster. We need to jazz it up with a few images. If you uploaded the images from the document, great. You can find those in your Uploads section. And you'll see I have different images here that I've uploaded for projects. Those images stay. So depending on if you're like, I'm over here working on something else, this is something else, they will be here regardless of the project that you're working on. So the first image that I had for you all would be this kind of colorful Connect Ed image. All you need to do to insert it is click on it one time. From there, it's up to you to resize the image. Semhar mentioned that she's had questions from students in the past about if this kind of pertains to the conservative side of your image choices. The answer is it depends on the size. So with this being an image and not maybe something so large as a title box, you can really be more loosey-goosey with this. Plus, in my opinion, this would grab someone's attention passing by my poster in a big conference. I might think, what do they have going on over there? I want to see. So again, all we did was select the image by clicking on it one time, and the image was added to the poster. Let's try it again. We have a kind of table down here. I'm going to click it once. I clicked it twice. Click it once, and here it is. Select it and resize as you see fit. Now you might think, oh, I really wanted to have this image first, but it may not work. Feel free to move the images around. That's totally fine. Sometimes the idea we had for our poster may not actually be able to be executed for the benefit of your viewers, and that's totally fine. So maybe I want to rethink that and put this table here in the center. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of pause here to see if there are any questions. Okay. So I do want to show you all the finished product. Oh yeah, go ahead, Rosie.
Hi. So I'm not sure if you mentioned this before because I joined a little bit late, but I was wondering about like different like font styles and colors for, ease of like somebody looking at your poster, like how easy it would be for them to read and kind of, you know.
Yeah, so Semhar mentioned that earlier in the presentation,
Mm.
keeping it pretty conservative, Times New Roman, Arial, probably the most popular font styles.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as size, we did kind of have suggested ranges in the presentation. I also listed those ranges out in our content doc here, same range that Semhar mentioned in the presentation. I can put the link for you into the chat, Rosie, so
Oh,
you could see that
perfect.
as well. Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Also,
Of course.
Jasmine and Rosie, we're going to be sharing the slides and a handout that goes over the best practices so that state clearly what the recommended range is for each section and also the recommended font styles. So there'll be a handout, there'll be the slides, and there'll be a copy of the recording that we're going to share with you guys.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you guys.
You're welcome. So say for instance, oh yeah, you're welcome. Say for instance, you're ready to print this. It's fine, you're done. As I mentioned earlier, you can click the share button and download it to the preferred file type that your printer suggests. So if they accept PDF, great. The finished product of this poster looks a bit like this. So you'll notice here I have my images in the center of the screen, my results come after, conclusions, acknowledgments, right? Who supported you? Did you get any funding? Your advisor, that's a big one to acknowledge. And then if you have references or a reference, I just use this as an example. We have been to conferences where we've seen references as a separate document, even a QR code scan for references, and it's a separate bibliography in a document. So depending on the available real estate for your poster, it really just depends. And then if you are affiliated with a university, an institution, etc., feel free to include that logo at the bottom or next to your title. I think we saw an example from Semhar from Indiana University with that logo. But yeah, that is the poster.
Jasmine, do you have any examples of different posters, whether they be like posters or like flyers that you've created in Canva?
So here's one that I believe Susan created on her own, correct, Semhar? Our colleague, Susan Graham in Special Collections, created this poster for our Spotlight Symposium that Semhar chairs and runs. This is 2 years old. Wow, can you believe that? All created in Canva. You literally can see the text boxes here, the image that she imported into Canva, and then overlaid with different elements and shapes. Another example would be the flowchart that I created for academic conduct on campus that was since adopted by UMBC and lives on their misconduct page. So really fun, really, again, allows users to be truly creative and just kind of throwing things out that they really envision. So thank you for that, Semhar. That was a great point to bring up.
So as we mentioned, we're going to be sending you a copy of the slides, or I should say, link of the slides, um, a link up to the handout, which is like best practices, and then also a copy of this particular presentation. Um, Something that Jasmine and I do quite often for the students who come to these presentations or for the students in our respective departments that we work with, we review, we help students when, if they need a second pair of eyes to look and kind of help them with their presentation. So if you want somebody to, give you some edits to give you some suggestions. We're happy to do that when it comes to your posters. We've done that plenty for our students. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thanks,
And with that, I'm going to
everyone.
stop recording.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you for